keep hearing about secondary exposure. Okay. And from what I understand, that means a spouse could get it from something that a husband's doing, like washing clothes or being near him, or like, can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those tragic things you hear about, and I'll give you kind of experience we've had with many of our clients. We have say a young woman who comes in and she's like, I've just been diagnosed with mesothelioma. I never worked with mesothelioma. I wasn't exposed to mesothelioma. I don't know where I got it. And then we do some research, and everything she says is correct. But then we start doing a little bit more research, a little bit more in-depth research, and we find that her father worked in one of the plants, say in Cleveland, Ohio, and Oakland, California, whatever it may be. And at the end of the day, he would come home and, he'd get out of his overalls and he'd shake the overalls. And his daughter would be up there spending a little bit of time with her father, or maybe she'd run into his arms when he came home, and she absorbed that dust, that asbestos fibers into her lungs. And 20, 30, 40 years later, that's now metastasizing. So that's a kind of secondary hand exposure that children, wives who wash their husbands' clothes or overalls got. And it's just, no one ever saw it, and certainly the father would have would never think that he was bringing in a poisonous fiber. But unfortunately, the asbestos manufacturers and the companies hid the dangers of asbestos, and that's why we've got all these people getting sick now. So it's kind of a real tragedy, and it's hard to wrap your head around. Really is. They could have given warnings, and we would have avoided a lot of these problems. But it's just hard to wrap your head around.